God morning, everyone. Hey, I timed it really well to be with you again this month because I was here on Prayer Pal Sunday last month. And, we in Unity just learn real quick that the work is a work in consciousness. It's what we're doing in our mind, right? It makes its way all the way into our heart. And when we are praying with another, it really helps us get our attention off our own problems. Have you noticed that? So if you didn't participate in Prayer Pal Sunday, I encourage you to. And our online friends, I encourage you to also. It may take a little extra step. You know, that 100-pound finger of yours may have to go a little distance to get to the website. But get yourself to do it because it's a great place to be in our hearts. Well, friends, some of you know me and some of you do not. I've certainly been here at Unity Church of Rochester off and on during my 21 years here in Michigan, and we were reminiscing that we met at Unity Church of Lake Orion, not you two, but your mom, pregnant with one of the children all those years ago when my husband Matthew and I moved here to Michigan. I now seem to be following in the DNA of one of my ancestors who was a circuit rider minister. So I am a circuit rider minister again. And perhaps this month where you are celebrating your volunteers and celebrating also this year 50 years of Unity Church of Rochester. So in my mind, I'm thinking 50 years of volunteers. Think of that. And as I think of what it means to volunteer, I get to volunteer this year in many ways, as do you. And one of the ways is I serve as the president for the Board of Trustees for this Unity region, which includes 8 different states. And I like to hold that up in your midst because together, the ministries, the people of this region, and of course our whole worldwide movement, we have been working together in these ways of volunteering for over 130 years. And just recently, we had our teen rally, and I'm bringing that up because I see Jacob over here. And I know that this ministry and Reverend Donna, the founding minister, were huge supporters of our youth. And I want to thank you for that because it has continued. Even though we went through the pandemic, difficult, challenging. Still in the ripple effect of that, challenging. But we just had a teen retreat. And 54 people showed up for that, including a teen from the state of Washington that came all the way out to our region to be a part of these transformative retreats. So I'm just bowing to each of you in the ways that this ministry has been able to continue to serve for 50 years and beyond, and the way that the service of this ministry touches the lives of so many, those that you don't even know. Thank you on behalf of Unity. Imagine our wonderful co-founder, Myrtle Fillmore. And those of you that have participated in Unity, you're familiar with this story of a woman very challenged physically, facing into an experience that the doctors said was tuberculosis and death. Okay? So that was the prognosis. But she had an experience, and I want to just keep emphasizing that when we have challenges in life, the answer is always spiritual. Spiritual will be the experience that's transformative, and from that, there will be a way to see what's going on differently. And Myrtle Fillmore had that experience, and she knew it, and she lived it day by day by day. It wasn't some kind of like magic lightning bolt that kind of zapped out of the sky somewhere, and you're done with tuberculosis. Where she was done is believing that it had power over her. That's what occurred in consciousness. She began to realize that the power that we call God was greater than anything that we come up with in our worldly view, our worldly senses. And she began to volunteer. She began to show up on a regular basis and create prayer in her living room. So think of that for a moment. That what we call the unity movement started because of the generosity of Myrtle Fillmore and her desire to give and serve and be with others in a spiritual community right in her living room. Take that on for a moment. Isn't that beautiful to think about? So as we celebrate the volunteers here and everything, I wanted to just share with you that in all of our many wonderful years in unity, we have thought of ourselves as truth students. Students of truths. Not a truth that's static, carved in stone, but truth that is transformative. Truth that sets us free. You will know the truth, and the truth will set you free. Does anybody know that? That's a beautiful ancient saying that's come through thousands of years, and it has stood the test of time. So I hold that up in our midst. We truth students, I would call us free thinkers. Free thinkers. Because we are unfettered, we are untethered by what we see out here in the world, and that as we practice spiritually, then we begin to discover a freedom that's in the world, but it's not of it. But it is in this world. And so when we find that the world somehow, and what we see all around us, is a reflection, when we cannot see the truth that will set us free today from our challenges, I believe that we're not here by accident, that we're in the great body of that which is God. Think of that for a moment. If God is all, in all, through all, as all, we're in that. It's a whole different worldview, isn't it? We think of ourselves in a way as separate somehow. We look separate from each other, but we are in something that is so great. And I want to use an example right now to emphasize this, because when we are able to see ourselves differently, see ourselves in the context of something that is so great, it is often that touches our awareness. And then we go forward and, we eat differently because we see ourselves differently. We see the value of who we are in this universe. We see the importance of our divine appointment, our appointment here at this time. So let's take the concept or the idea and the practice of volunteering, and let's expand it now, because we want to be in appreciation. Let's appreciate that the sun is volunteering today. You ever thought of that? Let's appreciate. It's free service. It's not charging us a dime, is it? But it is making a huge difference in our lives. The sun, without the sun, we're going to have a difficult time living on this planet, right? Okay, now let's go on with this thinking. Let's appreciate the moon, because it's volunteering today. It is free service, isn't it? It is serving the great life force so that you and I can thrive. Who wants to take it a little farther? What else is serving today freely, right in our midst? What else is serving? What's that?
Air.
Air. My gosh. Woo. Let's appreciate the air, because it's serving. It is. It's volunteering. It is serving today without cost, right? What else? What else is serving today? Mother Earth. Oh my gosh. Thank you, Mamamita. Mama. Oh. So we have the earth serving freely, without a charge. Now we humans have figured out how to capitalize on that, but let's just think about the earth, the water, the air, the sun, the moon, the stars, the cosmos. Wow. All serving, and we are in it, are we not? We are not outside of that. We are in it. Now I want us to keep this awareness very strong as we share a little bit more, as we move in as truth students, so that we can be in a transformative experience right here and right now. Because my guess is, no matter what age you are, there is something in your life, there's certainly something in my life, that sometimes gets me. You know, my friend from England says gets her knickers in a twist. Or it jerks your chain, or it bothers you, or it keeps you up in the middle of the night, or it pains you, right? Does anybody here relate to that? Okay, online people, raise your hands. So we all have that in us that can really be a challenge for us. But I had one this week that really helped me open up my thinking in preparation for today even, because I was living it. And my oldest son, was told that he is going to require a medical procedure. Now, that unto itself might have been very different when he was living at home and I and his father, Matthew, when we were in charge. But as parents, you know this. These kids grow up. They have lives of their own. They better. We want to give them roots, and we want to give you wings. And actually someday you spread those wings and you fly and you create the vision and the beauty that all of creation is creating through you. Because everything is volunteering through us, isn't it? We begin to understand how we can be in alignment with that. Because that is the principle or the law of the universe. It is serving and it is volunteering, if you will call it that. So here I am, though, as a mom with a son age 30, and he's in charge of making his own decisions about which doctors he goes to and which opinion he listens to and which procedure he chooses and the timing of it and this and that and everything else. As a parent, I felt out of control, just out of control. And being out of control sometimes brings a lie to the surface in my mind that you are powerless. And this is the great lie. It's one thing to be in the world and to have a sense of being out of control or powerless with all that's going on in our world. But it is a lie to believe that there is no power. And so we here as truth students get that opportunity to work with the power that is at work through us. And we have the mind, the reflective mind. Think of any other creature that we are aware of that reflects upon itself. There is something unique about the human species. We have the capacity to reflect. And when we reflect in our mind what's going on in it, we then can make a choice. Where will we put the focus? Will we put the focus on the fact that it may seem like we have no power over the fact that the earth is spinning 1,000 miles an hour? Do you have any power over that? I don't, but it's serving us. It's serving us. It's creating some amazing experience that ultimately we think of as gravity, and we're actually here on the earth and not flying off of it. But we have no control over the fact that it's spinning. And sometimes we just have to acknowledge that also, that we have no control over the political systems that are spinning, or some of the systems, the health insurance systems, or think of all the systems that we work with, right? That have their own spinning, seemingly out of our control reality. But we have a choice about where we put the focus, and there is a steadiness within us, just as there is a steadiness of standing here or you sitting where you are. We have the ability to be in a place of calmness. We have the ability and responsibility to be able to go within and to discover that there is that is unshakable. There is that is going to be like a rock that we can count on no matter what is going on in the outer experience. And I found that this week. I found that Now, it did take a little bit of work, right? It takes the work of consciousness. It takes that which we call prayer, meditation, reflective studies, contemplation. I also believe that it is very enhanced by being with other truth students that are also putting into practice what are the truths that support us today, so that we can have the ground of truth. Even though it may be invisible to everybody here, there will be a ground of truth within us, and we will be able to live and thrive from that ground of truth. And for me as a mom, that I might even be able to sleep through the night, even though there was so much out of my ability to control in my son's choices. So today, when I think of that, I also think of an ancient, it's really a quote that comes from Matthew, the Gospel according to Matthew. And you would find so much interest, I think, in going to this particular passage. It's where you find the Lord's Prayer. But the first many verses in this particular chapter are all about don't. Don't do this. Don't do this, don't do this, don't do this, until you get to the very end. And then it is an emphasis on what we are to do, who we are to be. And the quote is, "The eye is the lamp of the body. Let your eyes be good," is one translation. "Let your eyes be healthy," is another translation. "Let your eyes be sound," another translation. And this translation that I first read as a child going to my granny's church, the King James Version, "Let the eyes be single." Anybody remember that version? Let thine eye be single. It's like, let there be a focus. For me this week, I found some great focus in a short little slogan: keep an open mind. You ever tried that one when you got a challenge? Keep an open mind. Don't let it go anywhere. Keep that open mind. Don't give it away. Don't let it be used by somebody else's version of how things are going to work out for us. Keep that open mind and let it be single and true on the truths that will help us today. So I also had heard a little story about elephants that I thought might help us remember how this mind and this consciousness works. An elephant, anybody ever been around an elephant? You seen pictures of an elephant? Even in Nome, Alaska, where I grew up, they brought a baby elephant when I was a little girl to the school I grew up in. You can imagine the whole town of Nome, Alaska came out to see this baby elephant. They have the teeniest, tiniest eyes. Here's this huge creature. It could be weighing more than 2 tons. Huge. And they have the smallest eyes and cannot see how great they are. We are like that. It is as though we have such small, tiny eyes to even be able to see how great we are. And how quickly we will forget when somebody else says, you don't know how to do this, or you did it wrong. Or when we listen to our own chatter inside that says, woulda, coulda, shoulda, if only. That's what gets in the way of that single, healthy, sound vision. That is a teeny tiny perspective, a separation consciousness perspective. So we move our vision to that which is expansive. Remember the analogy. What's serving today? The sun is serving. The moon is serving. The waters of the earth are serving. The earth itself is serving. Is there a spot where we can be where there is not that which is serving to support us? There is not. It doesn't matter where we go, that which we call the universe, or give it another name, God, is always serving. We cannot get away from it. In the ancient Hebrew scripture in the Psalms, there's a beautiful passage. If I make my bed in hell, you are there. So even when I am in a horrible place in my mind, I cannot be out of that which is God, that is serving in all, through all, as all, and for all. That this is the way that we have been created, not separate from the help that we need. Years ago, my husband's grandmother, who had contracted influenza during the pandemic of 1919, which meant that a lot of people were dying during that pandemic. But she was in Washington, D.C. volunteering. She was helping the troops. And there was a healer in the area, Washington, D.C. at that time, by the name of Dr. Emily Cady. And if you've been in Unity very long, you know that that is our first, after the Bible, textbook, Lessons in Truth, authored by Dr. Emily Cady, a naturopathic doctor. And Gran went to that doctor, and obviously she lived because I met her years later. She's the one that introduced me to Unity Church, Portland, Oregon. She invited me to a church service. There were volunteers at that door. There were volunteer ushers. There were people that made coffee. There were people that turned up the heat. There were people that made sure that there was music available for everybody. There were people that made little gifts for those that were new and coming to Unity Church for the very first time. There were people that were volunteering their time making classes available. There were generous people that were putting pennies, dimes, nickels, dollars, $100 bills, $1,000 bills. They were volunteering and giving freely. And because they were there for me. The universe did not let me down during a time of traumatic and great change that I had said yes to, which is to leave that little teeny tiny town of Nome, Alaska, and to follow the dream of going to school and going to college, even though there was no money in my family for that. And yet, the universe, God, kept assuring the way. I share this with you because I know that in every ministry that I am associated with, every ministry in this region, every ministry in the Unity movement, I can tell you there are challenges. There will be challenges with finances. There will be challenges with enough people to step forward to volunteer. But I encourage this ministry. I encourage all of you. I encourage you to work just as Myrtle and Charles did during the Great Depression when they were building the Unity Church in downtown Kansas City. No bank would loan them any money, and they went forward with faith bonds. Nobody knew how they would possibly surmount the cost of building that building when it went from whatever was projected to 100 times over. And yet they made that building happen. And they continued to meet. There was a faith, a tenacious faith, that we want to remember as truth students. How do we embrace that tenacious faith? Well, I have a gift for you today because it is true, as Charles Fillmore said, that healing is of the mind. Healing is in consciousness. And the most ancient translation of the word healing that I could find comes from the Aramaic, which is the language of Jesus. And it means to mend or to stick together or like knit together. And we want to knit our sight. We want to mend our sight. We want to bring the world and the experiences that we have and bring it together with spiritual vision. Unity, true students, are not about denial and being in magical thinking. We are not a people that ignores what is going on in our world. We are not a people to bypass and pretend that there is not a great deal of challenge here right now. But we are here to make sure that you, Jacob, and you, Cassie, know that we all came with everything we require to meet these challenges. The universe didn't make a mistake here. The universe made sure that we could work in our minds and there would be ideas to solve problems. That's how the God of my understanding works. It is a God that is a solution God, right? Not a passive God, but what's going to show up with whatever challenge we walk through here today with. So if you got a physical problem and you got a prognosis or diagnosis, or you've got a financial challenge and you're wondering how you're going to pay a bill, I've been there. I am here to remind us that there is an idea waiting to happen. But we've got to marry and mend and heal our vision. Because if we are stuck on the problem and only seeing lack, that's only half of what there is to see. There's so much more for us to see. So as we turn in prayer and meditation, then we find that we are healed. There is a wholeness. And that wholeness reveals more, right? Coming from wholeness will always reveal more because it's whole. Coming from partness is going to reveal partness. Does that make sense to you? Yeah, so we want to be in the whole of things. And Charles Fillmore had to say this about wholeness. Wholeness is a transcendence or an elevation in consciousness to a higher purpose that is based in love. Shall I read that again? Okay. Wholeness, being whole, contemplating wholeness, is a transcendence or elevation in consciousness. Like think about elevators. Go up a floor, right? Get away from being stuck with that vision on the problem. Go up a floor. What else is there? Oh, the sun is serving right now, and the moon is serving right now, and the earth is growing food, and there's light today, even though it's cloudy. Isn't that like going up a notch, right? Going up in the elevator? So he says transcendence or elevation in consciousness to a higher purpose that is based in love. Now the story. And I have this printed out for all of you. Online friends, you'll just have to call the office. I'll leave all of these. They can send you one. You know, I as a person that really invited the Earth Care work for our Unity movement about 30 years ago, it's been a long time now, I think about the earth a lot. I think about what will change our hearts, what will transform our minds. Because we are going to make purchases. We'll purchase food. We will purchase water. We will purchase electricity for our homes. What will move us to wholeness when it seems like it is so difficult to know what to do? What can I do that will really make a difference for the water? How can I serve through my job today? Everybody has a job today. Did you know that? Everybody has a job. It's called living. Everybody has a job. So our job today in living is that we are going to invest. We're going to invest. We're going to serve. we're going to be an outpicturing of what the universe is doing through us. Because the universe didn't design us as takers. Did the universe design the sun as a taker? Did the universe design flowers as takers? Did the universe design sparrows as takers? Did the universe design mountains as takers? No. We are designed to be givers. So as we go forward in our job today, let's be about the job of giving, the job of serving with every choice we make. That's a tall order, Kathy. How can you do that with every choice? Well, it just starts with a little mustard seed of an idea in consciousness. You see, just a little teeny tiny seed of a thought. I could change that. So here's a story of somebody that made a huge change, and then we'll go into meditation. Some years ago, I was struck on a cross-town bus in New York City. I don't know who this person is. They wrote their story, and I found it on Facebook. So this person was stuck in a crosstown bus in New York City during rush hour. Traffic was barely moving. The bus was filled with cold, tired people who were deeply irritated with one another and the world itself. Two men barked at each other, about to shove, and it might have become worse, right? A pregnant woman got on the bus and nobody offered her a seat. You get the picture? All right. Rage was in the air and no mercy was to be found anywhere. But as the bus approached 7th Avenue, the driver got on the intercom. "Folks," he said, "I know you've had a rough day and you're frustrated. I can't do anything about the weather or traffic, but here's what I can do. As each one of you gets off the bus, I will reach out my hand to you. And as you walk by, drop your troubles into the palm of my hand, okay? Don't take your problems home to your families tonight. Just leave them with me. My route goes right by the Hudson River, and when I drive by there later, I will open the window and throw your troubles in the water." Who does that? The universe does that. God does that. We're designed to do that. The writer says, "I was in a spell. It was as if a spell was lifted, and everybody burst out laughing. And then each stop, the driver did exactly that, put their hand out. And people would come up and maybe giggle and put their, like invisible stuff in that driver's hands. And then this person watched people come up and put their stuff in the driver's hands and cry. And the person was on the bus long enough to see that in fact the driver, when the driver got to the Hudson River, got out, opened the doors, and just poured out all of that suffering, all those hurts. This writer ends with a quote. "No matter who you are, or where you are, or how mundane or tough your situation may seem, I believe you can illuminate the world. And in fact, I believe this is the only way the world will ever be illuminated, one bright act of grace at a time, all the way to the river. All the way. One smile, one kind word, one generous bit of attention showing up like you are today, making community for people." This quote comes from Elizabeth Gilbert, but this is the quote from Jesus. "The eye is the lamp of the body. If your eyes are good, your whole body will be full of light." So let's do that right now. Please close your outer eyes. As the ancients say, we have the outer eye and we have the inner eye. So if you're comfortable doing so, you can close the outer eye as we imagine ourselves now that we are being lifted in consciousness with the power and the presence of that which we call God, the whole universe designing to bring us into the expanse of awareness. Let not your heart be troubled. As a great teacher spoke to those that followed him, the great teacher Jesus, from that Christ awareness, I have overcome the world. So we receive the breath, because the air is volunteering in our midst. We receive the breath. We breathe in and out. We imagine with the power of imagination that we are able to see now the wholeness. That for every problem, the answer is right here and right now. For every challenge, the solution is here. It's already available in us right now. I am healed and I am made whole. O beloved that I call God, be the healing, prospering power in my life, in my mind, my body, and every part of my living. Mend my vision. Make me the instrument of love. Reveal the light that I might see in every conversation, in every quiet contemplation, that I am whole and complete, a sinless, perfect child of the universe. I rest now, knowing that this light is revealed. Thank you, thank you, thank you, O beloved one. And so it is, and shall ever be. Amen.